Today, drones have become a common sight, and the number of manufacturers has rapidly increased in recent years. However, most of these devices are produced in one place, Shenzhen, the innovation hub of China, located in Guangdong province. And the dominant company here is DJI. In this video, I will talk about the competition in the drone market among Chinese and American companies, and what DJI has been doing after becoming the world leader in the industry. In the first two parts, I discussed how the consumer multi-rotor drone market began to grow rapidly, thanks to the development of the electronics industry and the reduction in the cost of electronic components such as motors, chips, and lithium batteries. DJI started by producing professional model aircrafts and had no technological problems, but lacked experience in product commercialization. However, unlike competitors who rushed to release products to the market, DJI, or more specifically its founder Frank Wang, showed incredible patience, perfecting two areas at once. The first area is consumer drones, with the flagship series being the Phantom 1, 2, and 3. The Phantom 1 solved the problem of integrating all components into a single device, making it so that anyone could simply open the box and fly right away. The Phantom 2 tackled the challenge of equipping the drone with an action camera, enabling low-cost recreational aerial photography. And the Phantom 3 solved the issue of integrating a drone with a high-quality camera, allowing users to shoot 4K video right out of the box at a low price. The second area is professional aerial photography for the film industry. In this category, DJI's standout products were the ZenMuse gimbal and the Spreading Wings S800 drone. The ZenMuse solved the problem of stabilizing professional cameras, while the S800 provided high maneuverability and payload capacity. Together, these two products replaced manned helicopters in 80% of professional aerial photography cases, allowing drones to penetrate the professional sector for the first time and radically change the rules of the game in this segment. DJI's huge advantage lies in its cost structure. As I mentioned before, the company is based in Shenzhen, the global center for electronics manufacturing, giving it access to the cheapest electronic components. But DJI went further by establishing its own design and production of all components except chips. As a result, other drone manufacturers outside of China simply cannot compete with DJI on price. Thanks to these advantages, by 2014, the company had already firmly captured more than 70% of the global consumer drone market, with annual sales exceeding $500 million. While there are other Chinese drone companies in Shenzhen, their profitability is much lower. Its main competitors, such as XAG and YUNEEC, began attracting large sums of investment. XAG received $20 million, and YUNEEC not only raised $60 million but also secured support from Intel, which provided them with their chips. When the money started flowing in, competitors became more active, and a new wave of the technological race began. In this round, everyone was competing in the field of machine vision. What does machine vision mean? It is the ability of devices to see the surrounding world using various sensors, such as optical cameras, invisible light sensors, thermal imagers, radars, and others. The ability to see and distinguish is a key step. Once a drone can see, the next task is to process and analyze this data through software, enabling it to perform tasks like recognition, tracking, measuring, and detecting. For example, autonomous driving in cars, which is currently a hot trend, is just one of the many applications of machine vision. The same concept applies to drones. If a drone can recognize buildings, terrain, and obstacles, it can automatically avoid collisions, allowing it to perform patrol tasks on a pre-planned route. If a drone can recognize a person and continuously track them, it gains the ability for autonomous surveillance and filming. This feature turns a drone into your personal cameraman in aerial photography. In military operations, it becomes nearly an all-seeing surveillance system. Thus, machine vision not only makes consumer drones smarter, easier to control, and more engaging, but it also opens up new industries for them, forever changing the rules in those sectors. When people realized this, they understood that the potential applications of drones had become virtually limitless, and this reality cannot be measured by money alone. During this period, DJI faced new challenges. What were those challenges? Let's first look at the consumer drone segment. In May 2016, at the Asia Consumer Electronics Show, Chinese competitor YUNEEC beat DJI to the punch by releasing the Typhoon H, the world's first consumer drone with automatic obstacle avoidance and tracking features. YUNEEC, as I mentioned earlier, is a company that raised $60 million in investments from Intel and is quite well known in the Chinese market. Otherwise, Intel wouldn't have paid attention to it. Intel provided not only money and chips, but also a solution for 3D image processing. However, Intel's motives were clear. Its goal was to enter this booming market through its partnership with YUNEEC. On paper, the combination of YUNEEC and Intel looked powerful. You can't say they didn't come with serious intentions, quite the opposite. Competitors were closely watching to see whether such a move from a chip manufacturer would work, and if YUNEEC could surpass DJI with external support. But in November of that same year, when DJI released the Phantom 4, also equipped with automatic obstacle avoidance and tracking, it became clear to everyone that the consumer drone market was not for YUNEEC. Why, you may ask? Because from both a technical perspective and a product refinement standpoint, YUNEEC's product could not compete with DJI. Let's consider the two key selling points: automatic obstacle avoidance and tracking. The main task in obstacle avoidance is recognizing obstacles. The Typhoon H solution was based on an Intel system consisting of color sensors, infrared sensors, and lasers. This system could even detect small obstacles and map out a flight path between them. Meanwhile, DJI's system used dual stereoscopic cameras, which could only recognize larger objects and didn't weave between obstacles but rather avoided them. However, the Typhoon H had a significant drawback. It was, figuratively speaking, nearsighted. The distance at which the system could make decisions about avoiding obstacles was only about 10 meters. This meant that when the obstacle avoidance feature was activated, the Typhoon H's flight speed dropped to that of a bicycle. Meanwhile, DJI could fly twice as fast and still maneuver, making it much more practical. Now, let's talk about the tracking feature. How did the Typhoon H's tracking work? Yes, it did track, but it wasn't tracking a person. It was following the GPS signal from the controller. So if the GPS signal was lost, due to interference or indoor flight, for example, the Typhoon H's tracking function would stop working. On the other hand, the Phantom 4 relied on cameras to recognize a person. If it saw the person, it tracked them. Aside from the differences in how practical the technologies are, the Typhoon H just couldn't match up when it comes to user convenience. For instance, an important feature like automatic return to home was not as well implemented in the Typhoon H. If you've ever flown a drone, you know that the return to home feature is usually needed when something goes wrong. For example, the battery suddenly dies, or the connection with the controller is lost. In such moments, the return to home function can save the day. If you're lucky, the drone will return safe and sound. If not, at least part of the way back will be covered, increasing the chances of finding it. In the case of the Typhoon H, this feature activated immediately. It started returning without turning around, simply flying backward. The problem was that its 3D visualization system covered only 60 degrees in front. In contrast, the Phantom 4 acted more cautiously. It would first turn around and then fly back, avoiding obstacles along the way. The shortcomings of a competitor's new technology and product details might be forgiven, but it's important to remember that DJI holds a significant number of patents. In the consumer drone and film industry segments, the company has long established a powerful patent protection network, which, like a minefield, leaves competitors with little chance. YUNEEC and other Chinese and foreign competitors have often faced lawsuits from DJI. So, to talk about competition in the consumer drone segment is not entirely accurate. It looks more like DJI dominating its rivals. Instead of losing market share, DJI only strengthened its position. As a result, almost all major players in the drone industry realized that a direct attack on the company was pointless. One example of this kind of strategy is a company called XAG. In 2013, this company received a $20 million investment and decided to focus on agricultural drones for fertilizing and field treatment. The company's philosophy is simple. It's better to avoid a collision with DJI than to try to compete with it. Their decision to focus on a narrow niche was quite common, as when faced with such a strong competitor, the most reasonable solution is to find a different market. In practice, this approach turned out to be quite successful. First, there is significantly less competition in narrow segments. Take agricultural drones, for instance. It's not just about the technical specifications of the drones. You also need to understand farming. Each crop requires an individual approach to fertilization and treatment. How much fertilizer to apply, when, and how often. Accordingly, the functionality of their drones is now entirely geared towards agricultural needs. It's not about how high or fast the drone flies, but about ease of use and reliability to ensure the device doesn't crash. The second advantage is a longer profit chain. Specialized drones are not just sold. Manufacturers must maintain a dealer network, train users, and provide quality after-sales service. Ultimately, ensuring high drone availability for customers is crucial, as buyers purchase them for work, not idleness. Drones only generate income when they're flying, so it's hard for competitors to undercut prices and lure away an established customer base. Of course, besides the advantages, this path has its drawbacks. The main one is operating in an unfamiliar environment, where the right approaches must be discovered. Earning money in this field is not so easy, and it's still unclear where the upper limit of market growth lies. So, to summarize the drone boom that began in 2014, we can say that under the influence of capital, drones rapidly started penetrating various industries. At the same time, the consumer drone market continues to grow. The overall market is expanding, increasing profit opportunities for all players. However, DJI is undoubtedly the top earner. How wealthy is DJI? They're extremely wealthy. Although the company doesn't like to disclose its financials, it was forced to do so during a major funding round in 2018. As a result, its revenues, profits, cash flow, and asset size for 2015 to 2017 were revealed. Let's take a look together. Starting with revenue. In 2015, it was around $950 million. In 2016, almost $1.5 billion. And in 2017, $2.5 billion. Of course, compared to products with a massive consumer base, these figures may not seem that impressive. For instance, the same $2.5 billion in 2017 was less than Meizu's revenue for the same period and amounted to only 1/6 of Xiaomi's sales. But what's truly impressive about DJI is not its revenue, but its margin. The average profitability over 3 years was 22.6%. Do you know what the average profitability of Chinese smartphone manufacturers was during the same period? Just 3%. Let's take 2017 as an example. Despite having revenues 6 times lower than Xiaomi's, DJI's net profit for that year was $637 million. In comparison, DJI was actually earning more than Xiaomi. But consider the production scale of DJI versus that of Xiaomi. Moreover, DJI's average ratio of net profit to cash and its debt ratio over the past 3 years were so good that they could make any industry envious. Most importantly, DJI has been consistently profitable, not just over these 3 years, but continuously. According to public data and excerpts from interviews with Frank Wang, from 2009 to 2014, DJI accumulated around $900 million in revenue. After 2018, although revenue growth was no longer doubling each year as before, the company was still pulling in at least $3.5 billion annually. With its high profitability, DJI always had access to a massive cash reserve. So, what did DJI do with all that money? The company had plenty of room to expand, including developing new technologies, ramping up marketing, and opening new divisions. But let's first talk about the unusual move of raising capital. which I already mentioned. In 2018, DJI held a major funding round. How much did the company want to raise? Just $1 billion. Typically, when companies deal with investors, it's the investors who set the terms and conditions. But in DJI's case, things went the other way around. The company's financial situation was so stable that there were too many investors wanting to get in. With its signature pride, DJI declared, "Since everyone wants to invest, let's hold an auction. The winner would be whoever offered the most." The structure was as follows. Investors had to simultaneously purchase two types of shares, Class D and Class B. Class D shares didn't yield any profit and could only be bought back after 3 years at the original price, while Class B shares could generate returns, but the size of the profit would be determined by DJI based on its results. To buy Class B shares, investors had to simultaneously purchase a certain amount of Class D shares, and the amount was determined by the outcome of the auction between investors. If you look at these conditions, it seems like a truly unequal contract. Nevertheless, even under such terms, there were plenty of interested parties. After DJI announced the rules of the game, almost 100 investors submitted applications totaling $3 billion, significantly more than the company initially expected. As a result, the company turned this process into a competition to eliminate excess applicants. According to the company, the only criterion for success was the amount invested in D-class shares. After several weeks and numerous rounds of selection, the ratio of D-class to B-class shares was established. For example, if you were one of the winning investors and invested $10 million in DJI, more than $6 million of that amount would have gone to D-class shares, which you would have to leave with DJI for at least 3 years without receiving a cent in profit. How do you feel about such terms? So where did DJI plan to spend this money? Since 2015, the company has begun investing in several key areas. The first is technology. As I mentioned earlier, machine vision has become a key factor in the success of drone flight control. And behind machine vision are optical, thermal imaging, and radar technologies. What did DJI do? They invested in all of it at once. After all, with such resources, they can afford it. Let's break this down in order. Let's start with optical technologies. This is extremely important for DJI, as powerful cameras and image sensors are necessary not only for collision avoidance and tracking functions, but also for professional aerial photography. However, this market has long been monopolized by a few major companies. How did DJI decide to tackle this? They simply invested money. The strategy consisted of 2 steps: poaching specialists and acquiring companies. In fact, DJI acted cautiously, opting not to hire many specialists, but mainly poaching experts from the largest Japanese camera manufacturers. For example, they brought on a product design expert from Nikon, a camera casing expert from Panasonic, a leading researcher from Samsung, a former deputy director of Olympus, and an optical lens expert from Sony. If you look at the patents published by DJI after 2016, you will find many names of Japanese specialists among them. Regarding investments and acquisitions, the most notable is DJI's purchase of the Swedish medium-format camera manufacturer, Victor Hasselblad. DJI was primarily interested not in their technology, but in the brand itself, particularly its reputation in optical camera manufacturing, which would create a solid foundation for high-quality DJI cameras in the future. Thanks to such investments, DJI has not only established the development and production of optical sensors for machine vision, but has also released a series of professional video cameras, such as the Pocket, a portable camera that competes with GoPro, and cinema cameras like the Ronin 4D, further solidifying its position in the film industry. The second direction is thermal imaging technology. Here, DJI chose to collaborate with the American company FLIR, a leader in thermal imaging technology. Most likely, DJI did not want to develop this area independently because it has high technological barriers and relatively narrow applications, such as disaster detection, search and rescue, and firefighting. Currently, thermal imaging signals are almost unnecessary in automatic control. So DJI opted to partner with industry professionals, which seems reasonable. The third direction is radars. In machine vision, radars are as essential as optical cameras. In my opinion, they may even be more critical than optical cameras because cameras, like the human eye, significantly lose effectiveness in rain, snow, and fog. Different types of radars can provide visibility range, the ability to penetrate obstacles, or clarity and accuracy, which is an important complement to optical technologies that have been developing for decades. There are only a few major companies in this market which hold a high degree of monopoly. Small commercial radars have become popular only in the last few years. From a technological standpoint, products from different manufacturers do not differ significantly. In this situation, DJI began actively developing various types of radar sensors. How many types exactly? In fact, there are many. Let's start with the more well-known laser radars. Obviously, they use lasers to detect the shape, distance, and speed of objects. You may not be familiar with lasers and radars, but I'm sure you have seen laser radars on the streets. Currently, many electric vehicles with autonomous driving features are equipped with this technology. Laser radars work in conjunction with optical cameras and millimeter wave radars, forming a comprehensive perception system necessary for autonomous driving. In the field of drones, laser radars are also essential for many industry applications. For example, in surveying. Whether it's for cartography or inspection, surveying is an indispensable task. If you use optical cameras, the work can be complicated due to poor weather, darkness, or great distances, which deteriorate quality. Moreover, data processing can be complex and cumbersome. On the other hand, laser radars can quickly scan landscapes, vegetation, buildings on the ground, and obstacles in the air, obtaining all the necessary data instantly. Furthermore, this technology can operate in bad weather and darkness, making it significantly more effective compared to optical cameras. Considering the company's philosophy, if there is a need, they are obligated to develop it. Therefore, back in 2016, DJI established a subsidiary called Livox, which specializes in low-cost commercial laser radars. Today, Livox not only provides various laser radars for DJI drones, but also develops radars specifically for the automotive industry. One could say that thanks to this, DJI has officially entered the automotive sector, becoming a solution provider for autopilot systems. However, it is important to note that laser radars are not used for collision avoidance in drones. Why is that? Because laser radars are expensive and have limitations in their operational angles, making them less suitable for such purposes. For this, there are millimeter wave radars. This is a well-established and relatively inexpensive radar technology that is often used in autonomous vehicle driving systems. These radars do not have the operational range, detection speed, and accuracy of laser radars, but they are cheaper and more refined, making them an excellent option for many low-cost solutions. However, DJI's millimeter wave radar still has its own features and technologies. Firstly, this radar spins quickly on the drone, allowing it to cover a wide angle. Usually, 2 of these radars are installed on a drone to provide 360-degree collision avoidance. Secondly, DJI applied a phased array method to this radar. What is the advantage of this technology? It allows concentrated scanning of small distant objects by controlling the power and direction of each individual radiating element of the antenna. For example, it can detect a wire with a diameter of 0.5 millimeters at a distance of 20 meters. It should be noted that the phased array technology is not an exclusive development of DJI. It has been used in other fields for a long time. However, for the first time, it has been miniaturized to such an extent that it can be mounted on a drone. Additionally, full-fledged systems with phased arrays are usually used in fighter jets, destroyers, and missile defense systems, where they are referred to as fire control radars. Overall, DJI has not only reached new heights in the field of machine vision for drones, but has also expanded its horizons by entering the automotive industry. Now let's talk about creating an ecosystem. What does this mean? It refers to third-party developers who can create added value based on DJI's hardware and the provided software development kit. For example, if we want to use a drone for automatically photographing cars that pull onto the emergency lane, the process would be as follows. The drone takes off with a fully charged battery, automatically flies to the planned location, takes photographs, transmits them to a server, and then returns to base when the battery charges low. After recharging, it flies out again. Third-party developers can use the provided DJI SDK to write a program that allows the drone to perform this task without human intervention. Developers can earn money by selling software or renting out drones with this functionality. This is the simplest example of creating added value within the ecosystem. But what challenges exist in creating it? It requires huge investments. Developing the SDK not only demands significant financial and human resources, but also entails writing documentation and guides, ensuring compatibility and security. Fortunately, DJI has been persistently advancing this area. In 2015, the company introduced SDK 3.0 and began opening it up for free to everyone, including SDKs for mobile applications and drones. Since 2020, DJI has opened the SDK for consumer drones, attracting thousands of developers from around the world. They use it to develop specialized software for various industries, achieving automation with drones and creating many jobs and income. For DJI, the benefits are also numerous. In addition to sharing revenue from developers and licenses for third-party equipment, DJI gains high user loyalty. Imagine you are a developer. You have spent a lot of time learning how to develop using DJI's SDK. If this company's products do not have serious issues, you have no reason to switch to other brands, as that would require retraining and purchasing new equipment. End users also have no desire to switch drones, as many use DJI for development. Competition among developers is quite high, so end users won't encounter absurd prices due to a shortage of developers. Additionally, based on ease of use, the price of DJI equipment is only 1/3 of the cost of similar foreign products. What level of brand attractiveness would lead people to be willing to pay 3 times more for a drone that is not as user-friendly? This seems irrational, doesn't it? Now, on to the third and final point: ensuring global service. For users who are simply having fun with drones, loss or damage can cost several $100s. People with a positive outlook or a thick wallet may not worry too much. But for commercial users, losing a drone is a disaster. It's important to remember that commercial drones can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Many are purchased on credit, and not only loss but even a delay in operation can lead to significant losses and breach of obligations. Therefore, supporting drone service is very important. It's not just a way to stand out from competitors, but also a critical necessity for industrial applications. However, building a service system comes with many challenges. For example, the quality and reliability of the products themselves must be high, with good availability. Otherwise, the additional services won't be sufficient to resolve issues with the products themselves. A service team must also be maintained that corresponds to sales volumes in sales areas. Unlike typical consumer electronics, the percentage of commercial drone users is quite high, so the service team must not only possess technical expertise, but also respond quickly to inquiries. Regarding servicing and support at DJI, let's look at the situation in the largest market, the USA. First, all devices that DJI sells in the States come with a basic warranty similar to the terms in China and other overseas markets, which is 12 months. Second, all consumer products can be additionally insured for 1 or 2 years, similar to AppleCare. If a device is broken or lost, you can simply pay an extra fee to receive a new one. For portable cameras, the company offers a global warranty, allowing for exchanges and repairs in over 20 countries. As I verified, among Chinese brands, only Xiaomi and DJI offer such a worldwide warranty. Third, DJI provides corporate servicing for all commercial products, including drones, professional cameras, and all attachments. This corporate service resembles insurance. It covers a portion of losses within about 5 times the annual fee. whether it's due to natural disasters or human errors. The most important thing is having backup drones, which allows commercial users to continue their operations. How does the company stand in this regard? Naturally, it holds an absolutely dominant position. Whether comparing warranty conditions and additional services with other Chinese brands or local American companies, they cannot compete with DJI. Thus, with significant advantages in technology, ecosystem, and service, DJI has become an indispensable choice in both the USA and other global markets, particularly in the rapidly growing sector of commercial applications. Speaking of the US market, since 2016, the growth of the commercial drone market has outpaced the growth of the consumer drone market. In that year, the total sales volume of commercial drones was $1 billion. 7 years later, in 2023, it reached $7 billion. The exact share of DJI is unknown to me, but local media and users are confident that it is no less than 70%. It's worth noting that these figures come after the complete ban on DJI by the US Department of Defense and several federal government agencies. Interestingly, local government agencies have always been DJI's most loyal clients. In various states, the Chinese company holds over 90% of the market in areas such as fire safety, police, emergency services, urban and land planning, as well as in scientific research at universities. Why are these institutions so loyal to DJI? Because they need devices with high availability and reliability in a variety of conditions, and DJI is the only manufacturer that can meet these requirements. When bans on DJI's products began to spread to these institutions, it was the people from the system, such as police officers and firefighters, who became its defenders. Their discontent was expressed as follows: "We are patriots too and support domestic manufacturing, but at least give us a reliable device." They did not want to spend additional millions on purchasing Skydio, which does not even guarantee the necessary level of availability. Thus, a rather paradoxical situation emerged. On one hand, the bans on DJI products are becoming increasingly stringent. On the other, government agencies are trying in every way to secure exceptions and extensions for the company. Local authorities are responding particularly actively, seeking to circumvent the bans since thousands of private contractors and small businesses earn their livelihoods thanks to DJI. Their business depends on the use of drones, and the government receives taxes from their sales. What can be done when personal interests collide with a ban that offers no alternatives? This is perhaps a separate topic for discussion. By the way, Skydio is a local American company that actively promotes bans on DJI. Its founders are MIT graduates who lobby for the bans under the guise of patriotism. Their goal is to secure contracts with the military, and it seems they have already achieved some success. Recently, the Wall Street Journal reported that the company sent hundreds of drones to the Ukrainian army. The article does not specify who pays for these drones, but it mentions that they are expensive, often break, and are difficult to repair. Therefore, Ukraine is still trying to obtain drones from China. Another goal of Skydio is to displace DJI's commercial users. Over the past few years of efforts, the company's market share in the US has increased from 1% to 4%. Well, let's wish them good luck. So, since 2006, in less than 20 years, DJI has transformed from a small workshop producing remote-controlled models in Shenzhen into a global giant in the drone industry. According to reports, DJI currently holds over 70% of the global drone market, with a consumer segment share exceeding 85%. DJI has customers in over 100 countries around the world. Although the company has clear advantages in the industry, according to IDC statistics, as of 2023, the total global drone market volume is only $33 billion, which remains a relatively small niche. Moreover, the market for consumer drones for recreational use has reached its limits, and the growth of the commercial drone market has stabilized at around 14% per year. Therefore, even with such an impressive market share, opportunities for increasing DJI's revenue are quite limited. By the way, in 2023, the net worth of DJI founder Wang was over $4 billion. ranking him 77th on Forbes' list of China's 100 richest. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, and bye.